Welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. As always, it's me, your host, Yusuf. Now, without further ado, let's just get right to it. Now, Stephen A. Smith recently went on the Pivot podcast and he had some choice words to say about LeBron. Now, in this particular segment, he discussed LeBron's treatment towards members of the media that are black versus their white contemporaries. Now, I'm going to play you guys a clip of what Stephen A. Smith had to say, and then I'll come back to discuss.
You bring up LeBron. You ever see LeBron go at a white boy? It's called what it is. You ever see him do that? You saw him come at me. Closest you ever came to seeing him do something like that was when he called out Brian Windhorst. What you calling out Brian Windhorst for? The man covered you since junior high school and has praised you repeatedly. And you used the Pat McAfee situation to go at him. You understand? And that's the only time you ever seen LeBron James, really go at somebody white. I'm going to call it what it is. So we understand each other. I understand a lot more. And I'll divulge to my boy and his boy right here, when I did my monologue for 17 and a half, 18 minutes, the day after he decided to go on Pat McAfee's show, all right? And I said what I said and meant every syllable of what I said. Immediately after, I was informed that we won't be hearing more from him about me. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Because I got receipts. Anytime, any place, anywhere. It's not just him. I pride myself on being a fair-minded individual, being professional, but I'm also a proud black man. And I know not only what I've done, what I've tried to do for black men in our industry, black men in the world of sports, covering stuff the way that I do. I might have to call you out sometimes, but you know why I'm calling you out? Because there's a whole bunch of other black people I got to look out for, and they can't make the same errors you just made.
So you guys heard what he had to say there. Now, what do I make of these comments? He's not actually wrong. He is correct in his assessment. LeBron James, when it comes to dealing with those in the media that are white, he is very professional, friendly, and endearing towards them. He will never call them out, nor would he ever dare approach them in a confrontational manner like he did with Stephen A. Smith at that game. So he is right on the money when it comes to this. I will also take it a step further and say that not only does he do that to members of the media, but also to players as well, and even head coaches. He has absolutely no problem with throwing his black teammates or coaches under the bus when he needs to. However, when it comes to white teammates or coaches, he will empower them and speak very complimentary about them. Now, playing alongside of LeBron James as a black athlete will probably lead to the decline in your career and earnings. A good example of this is Russell Westbrook. He went from being a max player on the Lakers to becoming persona non grata and a veteran minimum player once he left the Lakers. He didn't even have a team that wanted to sign him up until recently, signing with the Sacramento Kings. Now compare that to the treatment of guys like Austin Reeves and Alex Caruso. When you juxtapose that treatment they got versus what Russell Westbrook got, it is a glaring difference. When it comes to them, he was very supportive and also complimentary of them and played a key role in their development and did everything he could to try to make them look good within the offense of the team. And look at what the outcome of that was. Both of these guys went on to become max players. And a big reason for that was because they got a cosign from LeBron. Right? Another example is look at how Darvin Ham was treated and how Darvin Ham was discussed versus how JJ Redick is treated and how JJ Redick is discussed. Darvin Ham never even got a chance to show what he could do as a head coach because LeBron James was either undermining him or throwing him under the bus at every corner by using the media as his proxy. But then he goes on to do a podcast with a guy like JJ Redick and gives him a cosign as though he is some kind of basketball genius. This is an example of what I'm talking about. And this alludes to exactly what Stephen A. Smith was talking about. However, as correct as Stephen A. Smith may be, he is the wrong person to deliver such a message because he behaves in the exact same way as LeBron when it comes to this. Stephen A. Smith never has the smoke for white athletes the way that he does towards black athletes. Now, remember, during the pandemic, when there was a major push surrounding the jab, and Kyrie Irving expressed his unwillingness to want to take it, and Stephen A. Smith completely eviscerated him for it. He called him an idiot. He spoke about him in a very aggressive and disrespectful manner. However, when Aaron Rodgers also expressed his misgivings and his unwillingness to take it, Stephen A. Smith suddenly became understanding and empathetic towards it. So the level of vitriol that he has towards black athletes is nowhere to be found when it comes to white athletes. Even recently, remember last season when there was a whole situation revolving Josh Giddey, and then everyone on social media and even in the YouTube space was saying, is Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews too, she was involved at the time because she loves to bring up the mistakes that black men make. There was a huge conversation in the internet space. Is Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews going to keep that same energy when it comes to Josh Giddey and the allegations that he was facing? And ultimately what happened? They briefly touched on it, and then they said, well, we need more facts and details to come out before we can speak on this matter. And then once they said that, they completely buried the story and it never resurfaced ever again. So clearly, there is also a double standard in how Stephen A. Smith conducts himself as well. I think the reason why LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith genuinely don't like each other is because they are the same person. And when two people are alike, they tend to not like each other because they don't see their own blind spots, but the things that they fail to recognize within themselves, they end up not liking in the other person. Both of these guys are narcissists and they have a majorly inflated sense of self. And they believe that they are both bigger than the industry or the fields in which they are involved with. They both believe that they are more than what they are. LeBron James always promotes himself as being more than an athlete. He believes that he can also get caught up in politics, movies, and business. Stephen A. Smith believes that he is more than just a sports commentator and media personality. And he believes that he can get involved in politics, in different elements of business, and even in the entertainment industry, right? Now look, LeBron James has done movies. Now they were trash, but he's been involved in several movies. Stephen A. Smith, he was in a movie back in 2005, I Think I Love My Wife, but he also has a regular recurring role on General Hospital as that character Brick. Now both of these guys to me are grifters, but they're just going about it in their own unique way. Stephen A. Smith appears to be grifting off of the right wing that is currently experiencing a resurgence in conservatism and conservative values, and he is now trying to find a way to grift off of that demographic and ingratiate himself into that space. LeBron James at one point was grifting off of the left wing, piggybacking off of the BLM movement and trying to use his celebrity as a way to get involved in the political side of things and doing campaigns for different politicians. So both of these guys are two wings of the same bird, and I think that's why they don't get along very well. And another element in all of this is that both of these guys lack self-awareness. Stephen A. Smith, he sees the tap dancing that LeBron James does, and he doesn't like what he sees from LeBron. But he is so oblivious to his own character that he doesn't see that he also is a tap dancer as well. LeBron can't stand Stephen A. Smith's narcissism, but LeBron is so oblivious to his own narcissism that what he dislikes in Stephen A. Smith is a reflection of himself. So that's really all this is. They are both one in the same. Two peas in the pod. So based on their nature, yeah, they're not going to like each other. And at some point, that dislike will manifest itself into a disagreement. And that's what we see taking place. Now, at least the truth was being spoken. And I like that the truth was said about a guy like LeBron. But I would have loved it even more if someone other than Stephen A. Smith said it. But I also understand too that most sports commentators are not allowed to even talk about LeBron like that. Stephen A. Smith is probably the only one with clout and the backing that could make these kind of comments about LeBron. But even then, he has to toe the line and be very careful because there's certain topics that even Stephen A. Smith, with all the influence and clout that he holds, there are certain topics that even he's not allowed to broach. But look, in the end, at least he spoke somewhat of a truth about LeBron, even though he may not be the right person to do it, since he himself is also guilty of this behavior. It's good to see at least there's some semblance of truth that's being discussed by a prominent media figure. And I do believe eventually that the time will come when the media is allowed to completely dissect and divulge the information that exists about LeBron. And I believe at that time, his skeletons will come out of the closet and they will be made available for the entire world to see. And I believe, based on the rhetoric and the things that people in the media are slowly starting to say about him, that time is coming sooner rather than later. But mark my words, that time will come. But that's all I got for you guys today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your people. You guys can also follow me and the podcast on social media. You guys can check out my books. All of the links will be in the description. Until next time.